Hello and welcome to everyone. The title of our call today is 3 Strategies to Consider for the Bookkeeping Aspects of Running Your Small Business. And with us is Ron Odom of AccuPro Accounting. Ron is a certified public accountant and an enrolled agent. And if you haven't met or don't know him already, Ron began his accounting career in 1988 and graduated from North Carolina State University with his bachelor's degree in accounting in 1989. Ron was licensed as a CPA in March 1991. Then in 1992, he formed his own CPA practice, which he grew into a very successful company that he later sold. Because Ron has a passion for helping individuals and small businesses achieve financial success, several years ago, he and his partner, Deanna, moved to Arizona and purchased AccuPro Accounting. And in November of 2013, Ron received his designation as an enrolled agent after successfully passing the comprehensive EA exam. Ron, welcome to the call.
Hey, glad to be here. I'd like to thank everybody for coming.
Well, great. And this, Ron, it's an interesting topic of bookkeeping for small to medium-sized business owners because, you know, there's several strategies or approaches to doing your company's bookkeeping. And I would think for the entrepreneur or the business owner who's just starting out, maybe the first strategy would be for them to personally do their own bookkeeping. So I guess let's talk about that and the pros and cons of doing it yourself, so to speak.
Yeah, you know, I think everybody kind of starts out trying to do the bookkeeping or accounting themselves because they're trying to save money or keep costs down. You know, they try to do it even though they don't really have the expertise or the knowledge of the tax laws and rules and such, and you know, but they still try to do it anyway.
Yeah, and is an advantage from that standpoint, if you don't have the funds, you obviously want to do it yourself. You know, so that's a pro, but I would imagine the con is taking them away from actually running the business if they're involved in the sales aspect of it, especially.
Yeah, for sure. It takes away from running the business, and then they can, you know, unfortunately they do tend to make a lot of mistakes because they don't know exactly what they're doing, and then when they do come to us, then we have to correct those mistakes, and a lot of times it takes more time to correct those mistakes than it does to get it right the first time. So, you know, it can get kind of, you know, pretty expensive for them.
Mm-hmm. Ron, do you find that in the beginning, are people using spreadsheets or do they use software programs like QuickBooks?
I think most time now, some of the small businesses, they'll use an Excel program or something like that and do a spreadsheet. A lot of times now people will go out and buy QuickBooks because it's a pretty cheap software program. And, you know, QuickBooks can be really good if you know how to use it. Spreadsheets can work, again, but you'd better know how to get those formulas right.
Yeah, and I would imagine if you have to ever produce financials, spreadsheets are not the way to go.
No, spreadsheets really is not going to work for any kind of sizable small business. They really do need to have some kind of automated software like QuickBooks. As far as doing it yourself, I guess the biggest pro would be on keeping the costs down. But what we find is and I was, when I first started out, I was in that position myself in trying to do all aspects of the job, and it just really doesn't work well. You do stuff that you really need to concentrate on doing what you're good at doing, and otherwise you end up spending, you're working 6-7 days a week, 12, 14 hours a day to try to get all this stuff done, and then then it's not done correctly, and sometimes it's it's not done on time, and you're behind the curve, and maybe you get tax penalties for being late on your filings, and then it just funnels from there.
Yeah, so falling behind, having to play catch up, that would be a con or a disadvantage to having to try and do it yourself then.
It definitely would, and those penalties can really add up, and those penalties aren't tax deductible even, so they really are costly. to get hit by those. And then, really if you don't have good information, you're not going to be able to make good business decisions. And I think that's very important. I think a lot of people, I see a lot of people when they use QuickBooks, and unfortunately they'll use their small business account as their personal bank account, and they run all these personal expenses through the company, and then when they print out their income statement or profit and loss, it doesn't look like they've got a whole lot of profit, so they're not expecting a big tax liability. And then when they bring the books into us at the end of the year, and we go through and we have to make these corrections and changes, and then all of a sudden we tell them that they have this big tax liability because they made a lot more money than they thought. So, and they can get a little upset on that because they weren't expecting it. So it could be a bit of a shock for them.
Right. Well, Ron, let's move on to strategy number 2, which would be delegating or outsourcing the bookkeeping or accounting to an outside firm like yourself. What would be some of the pros and cons or advantages and disadvantages of that type of approach?
Well, that's our bread and butter. That's what we do, and we do a really good job at it. So basically, just outsourcing it to a CPA firm like us basically takes that burden off the business owner, and lets us handle it, and we keep up with all the changes in the tax laws, and we know how to do it right, and then we're going to give the financial statements that are going to be usable information to that business owner, and then that business owner can make much better informed business decisions, as well as we will be able to give them the advice and guidance that they need because we're using accurate and timely financial information. So that's probably one of the biggest advantages to outsourcing it to somebody like us.
And I would imagine, like you talked about previously, it allows the owner to focus back on the business, the operations, the sales aspect of it, not necessarily on being a CPA or an accountant.
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, we can't be good at everything, and that business owner, if he's a plumber or electrician or a doctor or a lawyer, they're really good at what they do. But when we try to do stuff that we're not keeping up with the changes in the tax laws, and we can't keep up with everything that's going on, it's best to let somebody who has an expertise in that area, and that's going to free up a lot of time that they can get in there and use that time to build their own business.
Is there a price difference in terms of typically outsourcing it to a firm like yours versus hiring a part-time or full-time person? I would imagine that could get expensive, especially if you're looking for somebody that's got a ton of experience.
Well, I think it's a pretty economical solution to outsource to somebody like us because you're not paying for that that part-time or full-time accountant. And it's not just the pay. You've got to pay their benefits and everything that goes along with having the employee. I think that then the other issue with that is that employee. You're also are they going to be able to keep up with all these changes in the tax laws and be able to do the job for you? That's always a concern, as well. So I think from an economical standpoint, outsourcing it just makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and if you do hire somebody, sometimes they get sick. They go on some type of vacation. Obviously, with most employees, and so with an outsourced situation like yours, you have somebody there. I would think 52 weeks out of the year, right?
We always have somebody here. If we have somebody that's on vacation or sick or leaves the firm, we always have another accountant who can pick up the work and get it done and get it done on time. And like I mentioned, that's a really big that's hugely important, is getting it done on time and avoiding those big penalties. If the person has if the person's trying to do it themselves, they're going to get behind on it. If they hire a part-time or even a full-time accountant, they're going to spend $3,000 or $4,000 a month plus the benefits, and then what do you do if that person is on maternity leave or leaves for another job for whatever reason?
Right. Ron, is there any I guess theft prevention aspect of having an outside firm like yours do the books versus somebody internally? I've heard, and you see from time to time, horror stories of trusted employees that have walked away with big chunks of money from an employer.
Yeah, that can be a problem. You hope it's not, but unfortunately it does happen. And basically, using an outsourced accountant like ourselves, you have another set of eyes checking on the expenses that are going out and the checks that are being written, and that in-house person knows that, and is going to be less likely or less tempted to think they can get away with something like that.
Right, Ron, that makes sense. Well, let's go on the other side of this. Would there be any negatives to outsourcing bookkeeping or accounting to someone like you or a company or a firm like that?
As far as outsourcing with us, I guess if you the negative would be that it does cost them money, but sometimes it's money well spent. I've seen many times where just one piece of advice from us that helps the business owner make a good decision or prevents them from making a decision that costs them money, that I think just one of those can save them a year or more in our fees. So I do think it's a good value.
Okay, Ron, and then strategy number 3 sounds like if somebody really wants to, they can go out and hire a full-time or a part-time bookkeeper. What would be the pros and cons of that approach for a small business owner?
Well, hiring a full-time accountant can be a good idea if the company is big enough. I guess the advantage to that would be you've got somebody there that, again, assuming that they're well trained and, they actually know what they're doing and what's going on, then they're going to be able to provide that business owner with real-time, immediate information to make that decision, to make those business decisions. So that's certainly an advantage. One of the things that we do offer is we will help that business owner in hiring that employee. I think that's important too, because again, the business owner, they know their business. They may be a great electrician or plumber, but they don't know the accounting process, and so they really don't know the right questions to ask when they are hiring them. And we do that. We put them through a series of tests and have discussions to make sure they actually do know what they're doing. The other thing is, most of these small businesses are going to use QuickBooks, and again, we find, a lot of people, QuickBooks seems on the surface to be an easy program to use, but it's also an easy program to make mistakes with. And we have several experts on staff that we can send out and help train that accountant or bookkeeper to do it right and get it right the first time.
That's great to know. Yeah. And also, if you're helping with that person, if for some reason they would abruptly leave, or there would be some kind of accident where that type of employee just wasn't with the client anymore, I would imagine if you've provided oversight, you can help step in and provide continuity.
We can step in and help with that, and as long as we're reviewing the books on a regular basis, I think that can work. But that is definitely a disadvantage to having that part-time or full-time bookkeeper in. I see all too often a small business that maybe can't they can't afford to pay the kind of salaries or benefits at a big company, and they'll hire these people, and they'll give them the experience and the training, and they'll work there for a year or two and end up taking another job, maybe for more money or for whatever, and then the business owner is right back to square one. So that's always a big issue with a small business trying to do this in-house. So I really think the business has to get to a certain point in sales and size before this really makes sense to hire somebody in-house, because it would actually, you really need to have maybe a couple of people that are cross-trained and can step in on that.
Yeah, and I would be curious if a business owner is listening, whether they've got an existing business or a startup, is there some rule of thumb or a decision point for looking at that you've in your experience run into, or is every business different that they almost have to look at their operations along with their sales and their skill set?
I think every small business is different, but typically they're going to have revenues in the several million range before they're going to really have enough net profit to justify and warrant having the salary and benefits of even a part-time bookkeeper or accountant. My experience has been, companies that get up in the 5 million plus range can usually handle that and do okay with that, and then we'll help them with the oversight. But the smaller businesses, I think, is still economical to outsource.
And if somebody's at that point and they're a business owner and they're listening to this live or on the replay, is there a conversation that they can have with you, or something that you offer for them to maybe ask you questions and get to know you and see what you can do?
Absolutely. I'm always available to talk to them. I love helping small businesses. I like helping them. I like to see them grow. And, we offer to any potential new client, we'll offer a free 30-minute consultation to discuss their business and, and whether or not they're a good fit for us and whether we're a good fit for them. And so we do offer that, and happy to talk to them. In fact, they can call they can call my office 480-838-7714, and they can ask to speak directly to me, and I'd be happy to talk to them.
Great. And if there's an email address that you could give out, could they send you an email also?
Absolutely. In this day and age, email is the way to go. So they can email me at ron@AccuProAccounting.com, and I'll get back to them. We typically get back to them within the day.
Well, great. Well, Ron, this has been very interesting. And again, if you're listening to us on the replay, if you do have a question, feel free to get hold of Ron. He's right there in Tempe, works with people in the Phoenix and the surrounding areas and businesses. And again, if you have a question, he is more than happy to sit down with you and discuss your situation, provide you some advice on what would work best for you. Ron, thanks again for being on the call today. We appreciate it.
All right. Well, thank you for calling me, and I really appreciate you helping get the word out to people. Thanks a lot.
You're quite welcome. And again, the title of our call today has been 3 Strategies to Consider for the Bookkeeping Aspects of Running Your Small Business. And we've just been talking with Ron Odom, CPA EA of AccuPro Accounting. Thanks again, everybody. We hope to talk to you soon.